The night the cards were dealt, the wind howled across the Wyoming plains like a restless spirit, searching for something it had lost. And inside the dimly lit saloon of Dry Creek, men gambled away more than money. They gambled pride, horses, land, and sometimes their souls. Caleb Turner, a lone rancher known more for his silence than his skill at cards, had only come into town to sell cattle and buy supplies before winter sealed the valley in snow. He wasn't a gambler by nature, but that night fate nudged him toward the poker table where whiskey flowed and laughter rang sharp and careless. Across from him sat Horace Miller, a bitter drifter with shifty eyes and a cruel streak. Everyone in town pretended not to see. The pot grew larger with each hand, coins, a silver watch, a pair of fine boots, then the deed to a patch of dusty land no one wanted. Caleb should have walked away, but something in Horace's smirk held him there. Then as the final hand approached, Horace leaned back and said with a slur, "Got one more thing to wager. Ain't worth much. Id though?" The room fell quieter than the grave as he gestured toward the back corner of the saloon. There, standing stiffly near the wall, was a young Chinese girl, no more than 19, dressed in a simple faded blue dress, her dark hair tied neatly at the nape of her neck. Her face was pale but composed, her eyes holding a storm of humiliation and endurance. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some looked uncomfortable, others looked amused. Horace laughed harshly. "Came over with railroad folk. No family left. Owes me for passage and food. You win this hand, she's yours. Though I reckon she's worthless." The words struck the air like a slap. Caleb felt something twist in his chest. He'd seen cruelty before, out on the frontier. Survival often bred it, but this felt different, personal, ugly. He looked at the girl, and for a fleeting second her eyes met his. There was no plea there, only quiet dignity. The cards were dealt. Caleb's pulse thundered in his ears as he studied his hand. 2 kings, a queen, a 10, another king. Across the table, Horace grinned with rotten confidence. The final cards were laid down. Gasps echoed. Caleb had won. The room erupted into chaotic chatter, but Caleb didn't feel victorious. He stood slowly, ignoring Horace's curses, and walked toward the girl. She didn't move, didn't flinch. He removed his hat, a gesture rare for him, and spoke gently, his voice steady but firm. "You're not property. You're coming with me because you deserve better than this place." The saloon fell silent again, this time with a different weight. Horace spat on the floor. "She's yours now. Do what you want." Caleb turned, his eyes colder than winter. "No man owns another, not while I'm standing." That night he took her to his ranch, not as a prize, not as a servant, but as a guest. The ride home was quiet, the moon casting silver light over endless grasslands. She sat beside him in the wagon, hands folded tightly in her lap. After miles of silence, she spoke softly, her English careful but clear. "My name is Mei Lin." Caleb nodded. "Caleb Turner." Another pause. "You do not see me as worthless?" she asked, the faintest tremor in her voice betraying the strength she had shown all evening. Caleb tightened the reins gently. "I see someone who survived more than most men at that table ever could." When they reached his ranch, a wide stretch of land, with a sturdy wooden house, a red barn, and fields kissed by starlight, Caleb showed her a room prepared simply but clean. "You'll stay here. You'll eat at my table, and when you're ready, you can choose what comes next." She looked confused. "Choose?" "Your life," he replied. In the days that followed, the ranch that had long echoed with silence began to change. Malin rose early, not because she was told to, but because she insisted on helping. She had grown up learning discipline and craft, and though she knew little about cattle or crops, she learned quickly. Caleb never ordered her, never raised his voice. When townsfolk whispered about the girl he won, Caleb corrected them sharply. "I didn't win her. I won her freedom." Winter arrived fierce and unforgiving, but inside the ranch house warmth bloomed in unexpected ways. Malin shared stories of her homeland, of lantern festivals glowing like fallen stars and rivers that sang in spring. Caleb listened, fascinated by a world far beyond dusty plains. In turn, he taught her to ride horseback, to mend fences, to read the sky for storms. Respect grew between them first, then trust, and something deeper that neither dared to name too quickly. One evening, as snow fell gently outside, Mei-lin placed a small embroidered cloth on the table before him, a dragon stitched in gold thread. "In my culture," she said softly, "the dragon represents strength and protection. You have been both." Caleb cleared his throat, emotion thick in his chest. "You brought light back into this house," he admitted. "Before you it was just walls and wind." Word spread through Dry Creek about the rancher who treated a foreign girl like royalty, who defended her honor when others sneered, who walked beside her in town with pride instead of shame. Some mocked him. Others began to rethink their own hardened views. And Mei-lin, once dismissed as worthless, became known for her intelligence, her kindness, and her fierce resilience. She started a small garden near the house, planting seeds from vegetables she remembered from home. Against the odds, they flourished in the Wyoming soil, a quiet testament that roots could grow even in unfamiliar ground. Spring thawed the valley, and with it came new beginnings. One afternoon, standing beneath a sky so blue it seemed endless, Caleb handed Mei-lin a folded document. "It's legal," he said simply. "Your freedom, your name, your right to stay or go as you please." She looked at the paper but did not take it immediately. Instead, she looked at him. "And what do you wish?" she asked. Caleb's voice was steady, but his heart raced harder than it had during that poker game. "I wish for you to stay, not because you owe me, not because you have nowhere else, but because this ranch and my life are better with you in them." Tears shimmered in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of recognition, of choice. She took the document and held it close, then smiled in a way that transformed her entire face. "Then I choose to stay." The wind carried her words across the plains like a promise fulfilled. The ranch that had once stood lonely against the horizon became a symbol of something greater, that dignity cannot be gambled away, that kindness can rewrite the cruelest of beginnings, and that sometimes the greatest victories aren't won with cards, but with compassion. Caleb Turner may have won a hand of poker that night in Dry Creek, but what he truly gained was a partner whose strength matched his own, and a future brighter than any he had imagined. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that even in the harshest times, humanity can prevail, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there are many more powerful frontier tales waiting to be told. Stories of courage, redemption, and love rising where no one expected it.